Buenos días. Mike. Hey, buddy. What's up, Tori?
Am I here?
You are.
Touchdown.
Sir, very nice. Give me just a second to put these
Whatever you need to do, man.
Technology on.
I'll rock it old school here with my SM7.
Hello.
Ah, there we go.
I can hear you like you're right inside my brain.
Holy cow.
That's the goal. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent. I was actually, I couldn't find these. These were hiding somewhere, and I'm like, where are they? They're kind of useful. I love these guys for doing
what
this
model?
little,
what do you got there?
these are Beats. They were given to me
Oh,
as
the
a
Beats.
gift.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you know, they're great for working out. They're great for doing 100 other things. And then I started using them for this, and I'm like, I like it because it feels like the whole world of everything that's happening is sort of like right here.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it just feels like you're in the room in a way, acoustically.
Okay.
So, so
that's very cool. I wonder if it has some kind of, and I'm not to go off on a tangent, but I wonder if it has some of the binaural technology that they're starting to put into a lot of this stuff now, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's sort of
meaning that maybe it's got some technology that actually plays with the way your ear and brain work, so it feels like something's happening that actually.
Well, you feel like you're more in an environment instead of having something that's sort of plugged in your ear, like normal headphones feel.
Right.
It's kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Waves NX technology, where they have this sort of well, for mixing, it's like basically you're in a pretend control room. And so the headphones actually emulate, you know, as if you're in a space, an acoustic space with speakers in front of you. And therefore you have this more real audio experience. And I think it's a technology actually we're leading into. Maybe we can talk about that. I don't know, you know, I'll let you lead, because once you get me started, I'll just roll.
Well, we're kindred spirits, because I'm the same. We just roll. VR to me is fascinating, partially because, and you know, you live in a world where, you know, this has been your world for decades. But like, to me, what's going to make VR work is that it's acoustically believable. Because if it's acoustically believable, we could get into all sorts of nerdy stuff about this, but like your brain is constantly making false assessments about what's going on, even in real life.
Yes.
And for example, there's tests that they've done where the reason why runners use a gun to start running instead of a light is because when you hear the gun, it actually triggers your body faster than the light.
Sure.
And what that means is if you see something acoustically and visually happen at the same time, it's your brain tricking you, or has an algorithm inside of it that's saying, well, I'm getting the acoustic signal slightly ahead of the visual, but I kind of know what's supposed to be going on. So I'm going to sort of sum these into an experience called life.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that what's interesting to me about VR is now we have to reverse engineer the brain and how we hear and see stuff. And audio is so much easier to trick than visual.
Yeah. I think, but you know, the thing, and it's really the way that I describe.
Thanks, Cam. Good to see you.
Audio, and the way that I teach it more as a visual experience than an audio experience, because audio only informs your brain of something that you would turn around to see. So if you heard a noise, you would turn around to see what that noise was, to make sure it wasn't like a truck running you over or whatever. So it's a survival mechanism. And that's why, you know, we have these localization cues, this ability to hear things in a 3D field. And yes, you can be fooled, but those connections are primal. They're built in from the time we're born, right? You start developing them. And once you tap into it, that's everything about making audio work. And it only makes sense that audio has to go surround in some format in order to match up with VR.
Right.
In order to give you exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
All the technology's there already with gaming. Right.
Completely. Chris, thank you for inviting some fans. Giles for completely inviting some fans. Tori, thank you for being on here. Kim's good to see you. Completely. And to your point, what's up, T? I'm just trying to check and see who's in the audience because I try and kind of play to the
Tap
audience
in.
and
I
see.
understand. Yeah.
And
Totally.
Unknown's good to see you as always. Unknown's he's like the A&R guy in the room. Where you're like, okay, shit, we got to have our A game on. He's like, everybody, come on, let's hit it. Let's do one really good vocal take.
The unknown A&R guy. All right.
So let's get back to Nerdville, and then we'll break out of it.
Okay.
Hopefully. We might not ever leave this.
That's wherever you want to take it.
One of the things that I thought was super interesting when I was looking at your website, and we'll introduce you kind of formally in a moment here. We'll let the mystery sort of sit for a second.
Right.
Who is this guy? It seems like his name is Mike. I'm not really sure.
Could be a homeless guy. Yeah.
Right. Totally. When I'm looking at your website, which is a website about how to learn how to mix records.
Yep.
If you did an inventory, what the hell are they doing back there, dude? Is someone trying to break into your house?
What? Oh, no, I grind my teeth. No. No.
It sounds, do you live in a dentist office?
No. Actually, it's sort of a long story where my neighbor's doing some work out here. I have no control over it. So
good. So I'll have something to
we'll tough our way through it. I got the most directional mic I could get. Yeah.
Totally fine. I'm looking at your website, and what's funny to me is that it's a website about learning how to mix a record, and like most of the things you're using to describe a process or a component of learning how to do this is using either a visual metaphor. It's in the front space, it's in the back space, it's on the left side, it's on the right, it's using space, right? Yeah. Or it's a kinesthetic spatial thing. You're saying it's large, it's thin, right? So we're using things that have technically nothing to do with how sound works. It's some other sense that we're using, and yet that's what we need to be able to describe what we want from a record or from music or how it all fits together. So
exactly,
like, is that just something that, I mean, to your point a second ago, like everything is sort of mixed in together. There's no like, the brain doesn't necessarily like distinguish these different ways of understanding how to blend artistically something visually or something, if it's a 3D creation. It's all sort of one big mix. So do you find it's hard to speak about mixes to people when they say, yeah, we want something that's a little bigger, and you're like, okay, what do I need to do right now to understand what they're saying and give them what they need? How have you learned to sort of communicate about this stuff when it's such a fuzzy thing to even talk about?
I think this was always the most difficult thing to learn, like going back 35 years of working professionally, working with people. And I called it creating like the translation manual. You know how you would get this dictionary, it'd be like a Spanish to English dictionary or whatever. Totally. And so the best way that I found to get around that is I would say, play me an example, give me an example of something that you describe as big, as whatever. And I would listen to it, and then I would make the connection. Because I remember working on this one record, and they kept saying, make it bigger, and I kept putting more low end, and it wasn't getting bigger. And what they wanted me to do was to turn up the room sound. They wanted this big rock, heavy room sound.
Air.
But instead but they wanted this, the size was coming from an actual ambient component, not a dry thing. And so once I realized that, it's like, oh yeah, just turn up the room mics, or crank a little bit more, make the compression breathe a little bit more, just to kind of get it to pump and come to life.
It almost reminds me of like, and I imagine you've either been involved with ADR work, or you've been in a room, or you've been involved on film music. If you're doing sound for a film or a TV show or a documentary or whatever, it's really interesting to me how you'll have a scene and everything seems almost like it sounds believable, but it still sounds a little like sterile and fake and awkward.
Yeah.
And then you add pink noise, which is kind of just a softer version of white noise.
Right.
That sort of feels like reality. It sounds like just this sort of like air, not really doing much, but just sort of random molecules bouncing around the way you're used to hearing it. And all of a sudden it goes, oh yeah, that sounds great.
Yep. Yeah.
You know?
Almost to the point where you feel it, you don't hear it. And then I'm not, that makes perfect sense to me. And maybe I would have been perfectly designed for that world, as a post, a post person. Yeah. But it's never the way that I experienced audio. And from the time I was like 5 years old, and I sat in front of my parents' big, console furniture, record player, and I would sit there cross-legged between the speakers and just listen to music, and I felt like I was seeing things coming out of the speakers. So, it could have been just mental problems or something like that.
No,
I mean, it's like psychological tests.
You know what that reminds me of? And Nisa, thank you so much for the likes. Appreciate that so much. And by the way, what's the format here? What's going on? And I'll introduce you in a moment. I promise. But like, you guys can absolutely throw in questions, comments, like let us know like what's interesting to you or what else we can touch upon. That what you just described reminds me of like one of my favorite scenes. Did you ever see the Defiant Ones?
No.
Oh, it's a documentary. It's a 4-part documentary. I think it was done by Showtime. And it's Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre.
Oh, yes, I did see that. Yes, okay. I did see that documentary. And amazing. Yeah.
It's just, I've watched it 3 or 4 times. I've recommended it to all of our people a couple of times. They just had an interview recently, a couple months ago that I sent out to the email list. There's this scene that's of course a reenactment, but it's like, it's Dr. Dre's mom, Andre Young's mom, like describing, what he looked like when he was a little baby. Do you remember that scene?
Yes,
and she's
I do.
Like it was just what you just said. He would just sit in front of the speakers and he was like lost. And it was like he could see the sounds.
Yeah.
You could just see him and you could see his eyes like looking at the sounds.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know if that's something that you're born with. Because when I teach it to people, they understand it, and it's like, but it's kind of like, it's one of these things where in describing music, everybody always describes and talks about frequencies. It's like, oh, you got to get a balance of frequencies and all these kind of technical things. But in my experience, when I listen to great productions and great records, some were really warm and rich sounding. Some were really bright and clean sounding. Some were very dry and in your face. Some were very wet. So I could never find like a formula that fit into this kind of box, this little cookie cutter kind of thing where you say, oh, it's this sort of shape of frequencies that equals like a great production.
Yep.
But the one common component that I always saw with great production is that they imaged well. So when you put it up in the speaker and you listen to it, it feels like the sound escapes the speakers. Like it's not stuck in the speaker.
Wow, I've never heard it said like
also,
that before.
The other component of it is that, in a way, it's like the mix has to be somehow inviting. You have to leave enough space in the mix for the person to be part of the experience. So that just like if you pack a room full of furniture and you invite somebody in, they're squeezing between boxes. But if you have like a nice, comfortable, open room, they can sit down and enjoy the experience of being in that room. And to me, music is like that. Like it never feels like, as aggressive as something is, it doesn't feel hurtful, right? It still feels like you could just get into it and enjoy the experience of that, get yourself amped up or whatever it is that the music does, get yourself pumped up to party or, whatever the vibe of the music comes across. But there's something there that is inviting, that has part of the experience.
Totally. And Kim asked a question. It's almost like you read my mind. It's kind of awesome. So, you obviously, Mike is someone who has a long history in mixing a lot of great records, and we can get into your discography and some of the things you've done and some stories. And you also have dedicated a lot of your energies into training people and teaching people, and you have online resources to do that run the gamut. Kim's question, which gets to the heart of what I was thinking when I was listening to you describe, okay, You want to be able to create some sort of imaging. I think most people instinctively, they may not know exactly what you mean, but they pretty much know what you mean when you say that. And you want it to be inviting. And any musician, any creative music person is going to go, okay, I kind of get those two concepts. I think part of what Kim's asking is, how do you do that? And then my side of the question would be, is that something that a creative, instinctive person could learn over time? If you worked on something, could you learn to make things inviting just by trying different things and following your own instinct of what, that's a clear image to me than this, or this is more inviting? Or do you think, does it require some maybe polishing of your sensitivities, or polishing of certain understanding of how to execute on things to actually make what you want a reality?
It's a combination of a couple things. There obviously are some technical skills that you need to learn, right? So just like anything that you would do, if you wanted to learn carpentry, you would have to learn how to use all the tools before you started building things with it, you know, just for the sake of keeping your fingers and toes, you know? And it's the same with mixing. So there are some building block skills that you need to learn. And then when you start to apply those tools, every tool has a purpose. And so just like if you were arranging furniture in a room, you would say, oh, I want to put the couch here and put the coffee table in front of the couch, because if I put it on top of the couch, then it not going to work, right? And you place things around the room in a way that you would feel out. And maybe you end up moving it around a bunch of different ways until you kind of land on that place or that configuration that works, and it feels comfortable. So that's like a natural example of where someone can take something and they can say, all right, yeah, this feels right. You know, this feels right. And maybe some, you know, expert professional will come in and configure it in a different way that make it like that much better. But it starts with some technical skills, some basic understanding of how you create these effects. And then it's about allowing your creativity to use those tools. So in other words, you want to create a certain experience, and you say you want to create this big, you know, open space, right? You have this song and you want to create this big, lush open space. Well, how do you do that? And how do you create the right, you know, reverb environment? And how do you envelop the person in that environment? It's like the technical ways of doing that are actually incredibly simple. But so you have to know that they exist. You have to know how to apply them. But most importantly, you have to have the creative vision. You have to say, this is the experience that I want to create. And once you start from that place, you have a destination. So even if you don't get fully there, because you won't in your early, you know, tries, just like with anything, right? You don't start running and then all of a sudden win a Boston Marathon, right? You have to practice and you have to get good at it. But what happens is that at least if you know what direction you're heading in, you know where the finish line is, you know the experience that you want to have, and you keep heading toward it, you're at least rowing in the right direction. You're pushing in the right direction. And every experience and every song will take you that much closer, you know.
Kim, did that answer your question? Hopefully that sort of touched upon it. Here's another way of asking it, maybe, is for someone that doesn't necessarily have that mixing background yet, but they want to at least get their sort of dip their toe in the water. I'm putting out a record in my, you know, from as a sort of a bedroom producer, so to speak, and it's super dry right now. That's kind of what I have to work with. What would be like 1.0 level for adding some space to it and some life to it? Is it about you tell us, like, what would be sort of phase one of actually getting that to sound more, let's say, spacious?
So depending upon the way the person is putting the production together, the way that most people do it today is they're working with sound sample libraries, things that are in, you know, programming synths and putting their beats together or importing loops. And the main focus that you have to have is on selecting the best sounds that you can possibly get to build your production with, that it most closely resemble what it is that you're going for.
So are you saying use great samples that have air built into them?
Yeah, and almost all of them do, or have the ability to add effects. You know, like you call up a piano sound, it will always come with some kind of hall reverb or plate reverb or something that's attached to it. And you start by working with something that is as close to what you want to hear as possible. You know, I want this big concert grand, like it's in a hall, you know. And the more difficult part comes when you record your dry voice. So if you're recording your vocals and you're recording it in your bedroom, right, you're going to capture a certain, you know, it's going to be dry, it's going to be tight, it's not going to have all that reverberant energy. You're going to have to add that on later. And then, you know, those skills require a little bit of study.
Yeah, you can't just say this is how to do it, push a button, turn the
But
knob, and it's done.
if you're trying to work with plugins and trying to create some things, a great place to start is with presets. Almost every reverb plugin or whatever will come with a preset that says big vocal hall, you know, and if that's the sound you're going for, you start there. And then you can adjust the settings from there. It's like, oh, I like that vibe, but it's a little bit too long. Let me dial back the reverb time.
So 1.0, if I extrapolate sort of like, here are the two takeaways. Number one is sound selection. In other words, invest the time and the money and whatever else is involved in trying to get really great sounds. There's a difference between, you know, a waves, you know, a sample and something you find online, you know, that is just someone that's trying to create sounds that sound like X. There's a difference. How they've been recorded, how they've been processed, the quality of the audio, all that stuff. So thank you, DG. So that's number one, is use great sounds, because that's the sort of building blocks. Thank you, Patricia, for what it's going to sound like. And it sort of sets the stage. It's kind of like that's where the stage is, and your vocals are supposed to fit on that stage. So then my second thing that I would take from what you said is have some sense of what the sounds that you're using that are maybe different from whatever you're tracking or recording, sort of how wet or dry they are, what world they live in sonically, and then pick things that sort of fit more or less in the same world, and then try and match however your vocals are being cut. Try and just make the vocals sound like they fit in that world, even if it's just hit a preset. Oh, it's closer to that world than it was. And then just kind of start. Is that kind of like a decent 1.0? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think the thing that's changed so much over the decades of recording is that it used to be that the band would get together in a room. There'd be a couple, 2, 3 microphones in the room. They capture performances, and over 1 or 2 days they'd release a record. And so if you go back to the, you know, late 50s, early 60s, you know, the Beatles were releasing records every 6 months. Nobody releases records every 6 months now. And over the years, what happened is the technology got greater, the track count got higher, more microphones, more isolation, and then, you know, not depending upon the understanding of your audience, you know, like would create these isolation booths. So you could record the vocalist in a separate room, but they had glass so they could see everybody else. And that way you could isolate the vocal performance from the drums. So if the vocalist sang out of tune, they could replace the vocals afterwards. And then that just expanded track count wise. You know, when I was working professionally through the 80s and most of the 90s, everything was at least 48 track, and some sessions were 96 track. And then as soon as it moved into the DAW world, now it's not uncommon for me to get mixes that are 80, 90, 120 tracks of audio. And that gets a lot more complicated. So
would you say that's too much?
Well, it depends. Most of the time, yes, because you know, I feel that it's the problem with programming and working from that perspective and piecemeal putting things together is that no one of those performances that are added on are responding, you know, to anything that comes later.
That's right. It's not a band that's vibing off each other. You're putting these sort of separate little pieces into the room, right?
Yeah, but then there's
Emma.
There's an art to it as well. You know, like one of my favorite records in the last few years is the Billie Eilish record, you know. And
raise your hand if you fucking love the Billie Eilish. Like,
so to me, what's so spectacular about that record is that every detail of that record is so carefully selected. You know, it was all done in her house, recorded all the vocals in her bedroom / living room, you know, did all of the production work in the computer, you know, in the bedroom, you know, put everything together, mixed it, did the whole thing. And you just completely feel that experience, you know. And what was so special about that is that, and I think this is important, you know, if you're a producer or a performer, you know, you're creating your own music. To me, the most special part about that record is you get completely taken into her world. You completely know who she is. She doesn't seem to leave anything on the table there. You feel like, I know this person. You make this connection with them. That's like, that is about as powerful as it gets and as biting as it gets, because there's some really disturbing stuff in that record. You still completely are drawn into it. All of every production element is just perfectly suited to the emotion, you know?
And I think it gets back to something you were saying a second ago, that there's a vision to that record, which is a different use of the word vision in a way. I'm not talking about the imaging of the record, but there was, consciously or unconsciously, you know, between the two of them working together, there was something real that actually doesn't exist in space, but was real, that made that record mean something to them. And that guided them in those decisions and created a world that was legit. That was, and also it was not, you know, to get back to your point a second ago, it was not overkill. It was, I wouldn't call it a minimal record, but more minimal than 100, you know, 24 tracks.
Well, see, that is the deceptive thing. And this is exactly what I was talking about a record being inviting and leaving space for you to exist in. Because I've worked on records like that. And you think, oh, there's like 12 tracks of audio, right? There's a kick drum, a snare drum, a little, you know, hi-hat beat, a keyboard sample, you know. And then when you open up the session, there's just loads and loads of stuff. But part of mixing and part of working with these things is realizing that, and this gets back to the brain function thing, our brains can really only focus primarily on one thing at a time. You have a primary focus and you have a secondary focus, which is your environment, right?
Right.
And when you listen to a mix, it has to be the same thing. Like a great mix engineer, what they'll do is they'll guide your listening experience. You're focused on the vocal. And when that vocal stops singing, what is it that carries your attention over to the next scene, the next part of the story, right? Is it some weird keyboard part? Is it some funny sample? Is it a delay that carries over from the end of the last vocal line? And just like a movie, you know, when you put together a movie, one scene has to flow right into the next. And they could be stark changes, right? But it has to carry your interest, right? There has to be something that keeps your attention, makes you part of the experience, the flow of the energy. It's like, yeah, I want to hear the next part of the story. And even if you heard it 20 times, you still want to listen through the whole song, right?
Right.
Like there's something that engages you, that usually I always say, like, there's the purpose of like programming a beat. It's almost like hypnosis, you know, where you're putting somebody into some kind of state where they're taking in this story, taking in this information. You know?
Yeah, and also putting them in a state. I mean, you know, you go back to thousands of years ago, tribes would use drums and pulse that drum a certain way, and they'd start slow, and it would slowly get faster to put people in a trance so they could do things spiritually and creatively. And that drum was the sort of tempo of that reality. And you need to keep that tempo steady. That's the setting. And now we're going to watch what happens inside of that setting. And if that beat works, you're halfway there. But what you're saying is so cool, because it really blends a lot of the, you know, sometimes when you talk to people that are very accomplished in mixing, they've moved into a very sort of technical way of looking at the craft. I want to let people know why we should be listening to you. I want you to have a chance to tell us some of the things that you've worked on. But let's do it in a kind of fun, creative way. Like give us maybe 2 or 3 of the records you've mixed over the years that represent sort of like maybe monumental sort of things that you discovered or were able to do as a mixer for that record, to give us an idea of some of the things that you've worked on.
Well, let me kind of reset that a little bit. And kind of rephrase that question. Because really, a good portion of my career was really tracking. And, you know, and to kind of understand like the way engineering has evolved and the way this whole field has evolved, I came up in the mid 1980s, and it came up in an age of specialization. So there were people who were tracking engineers, there were people who were mixing engineers. Like all these fields were really divided, and not just mixing engineers, but if you mixed like hip hop records, that's pretty much all you did. You know, it wasn't like you'd go and bounce around all different kinds of styles of music. Once you got known and got a discography for a certain type of thing, you would end up doing that. Right. And for me, I started out as really a tracking engineer. So I was a person that was called on to track drums, to do tracking sessions. And eventually that led into mixing, but most of the mixing work that I did were radio singles. So I would mix records for Prince, for Madonna, for, Luther Vandross, go on and on and on with all these different artists who were big at the time, but those were purely mixes that were only for radio broadcast.
Right, and they were top 40. In other words, it wasn't genre necessarily, although pop is considered a genre, that just means popular. These were just songs that millions of people related to and wanted to buy.
Right, yeah. Well, this is basically the record company saying, we need a radio version of this that is going to translate. And they would take something, for example, they might take like this heavy rock artist.
Thank you, Mia.
Like one record I worked on was the band Live. And then they came out with a record, and I ended up going into studio with them. And I did another thing like this with Three Doors Down, where we'd go and they'd release their record. We'd go back into studio afterwards, replace all the heavy guitars with acoustic guitars, lay in a tambourine on the backbeat, to go behind the scenes.
Actually retrack it for the single.
Retrack parts, including vocals sometimes, so that we could release a version of the song which was a little bit more unplugged, so it would get released on adult contemporary radio. And so on adult contemporary, it's like, oh yeah, Away from the Sun. Yeah, I really like that song. And then they go buy the record and end up with a completely different version than the one they heard on the. And I did a lot of more of that work than mixing full albums. And then that kind of evolved into mixing full albums. So I did a lot of work for Whitney, but it was kind of a mixed, like even there, with the records that I worked on with Whitney, and the first record I worked on was her third album, I'm Your Baby Tonight. I did mixes for the body.
Did you do that at Westlake?
No, I did the work, that was in New York City. But there were about 10 different producers that were working on that record. So Luther Vandross produced a record, and I had already been working with him on his records. So I worked with her on that record, tracking vocals and mixing. And then Narda Michael Walden was producing, and he at the time had like 4 songs in the top 20 singles chart. And then, we ended up tracking vocals. But for that album, I think there were like 12 or 13 songs that got released on the actual CD. I was a part of the recording, production, and mixing of, I would say, at least 12 or 15 songs for that record. But only about 4 or 5 of them ended up making it onto the record. Like I think she recorded like 30 or 40 songs, and it was only the ones that were, picked by her and the record company that ended up on there. So it was a mix of all different kinds of producers, recorded all over the place. Some people from LA, some people from New York. And that's
Kim,
how she...
Kim is saying something kind of like, I actually remember discovering music, and then I would buy the record. I'm like, what the hell? It's good to see all you guys here. Wow, we've got a big group here. So if you guys have questions, I will do my best to keep up with it. Tori, help me out, because we got a lot of people in the room at the moment, and my screen is kind of scrolling pretty fast. What's cool about what you just described is you're just making the song better, for lack of a better term. And so it's like, okay, well, we could pull back the snare and put a tambourine in. Why don't we could just, cut out the intro. We could remix this. Thank you, Lauren. What comes through in what I've watched of you online when you're teaching, from the things that you describe and how you're approaching music, it's like, how do we make the music better?
Yeah. Well, I think
And so
ultimately,
it's interesting that you moved through your career kind of like in these different, wearing these different hats and sort of just trying to serve the music better.
well, I realized that that's what it was all about, you know, because ultimately, I used to say this thing to remind myself, to sort of keep myself in check and say, you know, remember, it's the artist's face that goes on the cover of the record, not yours.
Right.
Nobody's buying the record because you made a great mix, right? People are buying the record because they like the artist. And then your work helps to show that artist in their best light. And you have to always keep that in mind. So sometimes creative directions or decisions might be different from what you think they should be, but it's the artist's vision of themselves that they have to live with, you know, because
Right.
if that record fails, most of the time, you know, that's like a death knell for that artist. You know, you have one bad record, the record company be like, well, you know, unless you had 3 really good ones prior to that, they're more likely, all right, well, that was nice, see you later, you know.
Right.
Have a nice life. And
well, it's interesting. Moonhawk, thank you so much for all the love. I appreciate you being here. We're going to have a lot of different kind of You Now artists throughout August. We're going to have a chance to sort of have conversations like this with a lot of them, and they've all sort of popped in. This is like a dream come true for me to have someone like you on our stream, and then have all these folks that are kind of new friends of ours, Moonhawk and Kim and all you guys that are hanging out, Emma, if you're still on. Like, this is why I've done this, is to be able to put all you guys in a room. And so it's like, it's the first moment that I'm realizing like, this is like a new level for us. It's super exciting for me to just be kind of like the intermediary between what you guys are learning and interested in and someone like yourself. I feel like what's also interesting is you've lived through the sort of the 80s and the 90s version of how that works, where you've got a single that is the sort of lead bird. And if that single works, then the album, remember albums, right?
Yeah.
Like albums were the thing. And that was where the money, especially in CD land, when CDs came out, boy, if you could get someone to spend $20 on an album, I mean, just the concept of someone spending $20-ish, you know, $14, I would drop $15 on a regular basis for 12 songs. And I thought, and I was really excited. Thank you, Oak. Thank you very, very, very much. Much appreciated. So
remember when cassettes went to CD and then the price went up? I was just looking at one of the comments.
So there have been so many moments. I was talking to my publisher about this when we were looking at doing this remote guide that we started 5 months ago, right? Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. And there've literally been moments throughout the last even 30 years that have been major pivotal moments. And to me, the last one was the sort of Napster into Spotify moment. That was a big one. And then moving into the iPod and sort of, okay, now songs are just sort of these units of measure now. They're not albums. The industry is not, thank you, Sean. The industry is not driven by albums, which in a way is good. We're not trying to push albums and have a really sweet single and 11 so-so tracks possibly and that whole thing. But now it's gotten to the point where it's almost like the single, we're more fickle with that single. That single is the only sort of unit of measure. What do you think when you're teaching people about how to mix a record or how to enhance a musical thing that they're trying to put out there? What's the sort of goal now? Is it just to have a sound across the next 5 singles? Is it to sort of be able to say something unique yet consistent with each of those pieces of music? Like, what would you say is the sort of current like goal when you're putting music out, as far as how it's being kind of taken in by your fans and even by the industry?
I think the you know, this is the way that I've seen it, and it's like your lead into this is sort of perfect, because it's interesting that like the 50s was a very singles driven era,
right?
And you go into the 60s and LP becomes popular,
right?
And people all of a sudden start releasing more full records, and there was some of that in the 50s, but I think it was primarily a singles driven industry. And then the CD comes along, and now it's purely an album driven industry. But what happens in the 90s is that record companies are just loaded with money from all the CD sales because they just resold their entire catalog 20 times over, right?
And CDs were a lot cheaper to make than
Right.
cassettes. They won twice, and
Right.
it was
then
maddening how much money they made.
The problem is that they had so much money, they started to sign a lot of artists who had one good song. And what would happen is people had this experience in the 90s where they'd like hear a great single on the record, they'd go buy the CD and every other song sucked.
Yeah.
And they would be like, I just spent $15 for a single. And they got pissed. So then when Napster happened, people were like, most of the people I talked to at that time who were onto it early were like, I can listen to the full record first and decide whether I want to buy it or not.
Yeah.
And that was that big transition. But I think, and so what happens is now it's circled back to this more singles driven thing, where now it's more about posting a song is almost more like a social media post. You're kind of like, this is a pinpoint. This is a little milestone of where I am right now. And you have people who release EPs. But to me, if you're an artist now and you're sort of establishing a signature, you want to do something that is consistently the same, as diverse as you want to be. Like, and if you look at the Billie Eilish record and you listen that beginning to end, it feels like one experience, like it's one kind of, feeling that you get from it. Whereas if she did a record and she said, oh, I'm going to do, a jazz trio on this song, and they're all going to sound completely different from each other, no one would know who she is. Right. And they wouldn't be able to connect with her. And I think that's
thank you. Thing. I just wanted to say thank you for the gift completely. And I agree with you. And I think what's tricky now, and this is part of what I wanted to get into with, there's almost like an analog between what you've been able to do with your creative career as a mixer / music enhancer, and the things that you've made available online and this sort of business model that you've created. And I want, if you'd like, right? It's kind of like if you want to go there, we can. I love the way you've taken your expertise. Thank you, Moonhawk. And by the way, I will answer your question in a second. I promise. You nailed me. The sign is what you think it is. But before I go into that, the transition I think that we're making now is, this is just my vantage point. I'm a journalist. I talk to people all day long at various moments of what's going on in the music industry. And I talk to people that are like the head of Cameo, right? And I talk to people who are starting different kinds of digital platforms. And, the idea of being an artist is in such an interesting new place now, where it almost seems like people love you because of the art you do, but they don't necessarily buy the art you do per se. Right. They buy you, they buy a relationship. Yep. When someone goes on and listens to Emma, or someone goes on and listens to artists that they love, they're not going on so they can click a button for 99 cents and buy the single. They buy herness. They buy the awesomeness of that artist. And so I think the creative challenge at the moment, it's like it was records, and then it was tapes, and then it was CDs, and then it was sort of MP3s, and now it's streaming. I feel like what we're moving into now is this sort of, okay, I can put great music out there that people love, and I can sort of represent something artistically that people get and appreciate and can't find anywhere else. But then what do I do with that? Thank you, Britt. How do I put that into something that is either a unit of something that I can be like, here, for X amount of dollars, I'm going to give you this little slice of that awesomeness in this way, or I can give you access, subscription of some kind. Thank you, Musta. Or I can create a one-on-one experience, right? Which is very, very hot right now. Like, I think it would be super cool for you to talk upon, like, as a creative individual that's been involved in music this entire time and is now taking what you know and putting it into these different sort of ways that you help people learn how to mix. How did you come up with these different ways that you've provided those solutions? These sort of, some of them are mini courses, some of them are like a 12-month boot camp, Some of them are one-on-one. You know, everyone on this stream that's trying to create music is thinking about how to unlock that same model in their own way. How did you do it? And you did it way ahead of time. How did you sort of figure out that library of things that you know would add value and that would make sense and that people could be like, I want that. That makes sense. That's the part that I want. How did you do that?
Well, I think there are two primary things to doing that. One is you have to have like a very specific vision about what you want, not what the end product would be, not what you're going to sell, but you have to kind of decide. It's like, okay, for me, I'll just tell you what my experience was.
Awesome.
I made decisions about how I wanted to live my life, where I wanted to live, okay, and I wanted to do something that I loved, you know, through the process. So then it's like I start with that. So
you start with like lifestyle.
Yeah, I start with my lifestyle. It's like, in other words, if you don't love what you do, you'll never put in the amount of work that it takes to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. Because, you know, you have to, like, to me, the biggest thing from starting there, and so my decisions were, I wanted the ability to move and live wherever I wanted to.
Yep.
I wanted to do something that I love, which is teach and do music all the time. And I wanted it to be fun. I wanted to make it creative and fun. I didn't want to push myself in some direction where it became a job. And so I've achieved all of those things. I feel like I've achieved all of those things. So when I started, I think the very first thing was I did an online course. So I had this big mailing list of people that I had built up, all the connections that I had made throughout the years in the industry. I decided I wanted to do a mixing course online because nobody was really doing it.
What year was that? What year was
that? That was 8 years ago. 8 years ago that I started that. I came out with my first course. I think I called it the Master Mixing Course. And so I think I got like a couple hundred people to attend. You know, I charged for it.
Couple hours,
it was like 8 weeks. It was like 2 hours a week. It was a live broadcast. Okay. I mean, I was doing it through a meeting software.
Sure. So like a Zoom or a Google or whatever.
Kind of not a whole lot different from what we're doing here. I mean, it looked crappy, but you know, by comparison to the way things look today or the way that this looks, and there's no applause and, you know, things that sort of pop up on the screen. But I would watch in real time people asking questions, and I would answer those questions. Right. And I had a whole program, but everything was live. And so I created the whole course live. And it's like, okay, so I really enjoyed that. And I thought, okay, well, I wanted to continue to do it. So I decided just like, well, maybe I should just formulate a school and create, you know, a thing where I sell courses. So I packaged up that course, and then I created a home recording course after that. And then I created a more basic version, you know, called the basic mixing course. And each thing was just sort of a stepping stone. And each time I did it, I got better at it. So some of those courses I would remake. It's like, okay, now I feel like I have a better way of teaching this. I'm going to do this over again. Right. And the biggest thing for me was developing a presence on YouTube. And the way that I kind of started that was I got to a point where I thought, you know what, I need to create a platform where people can see me for free, where I can, you know, where I was always charging for courses and having to deal with marketing and all this stuff. It's like, I need a platform where I can draw people in for free, get them to feel confident and understanding like who I was. They want people to get to know who I was, because once they knew who I was, they'd be more inclined to buy something. They would look at it and they would say, I love this guy.
Totally. This sign is totally one that I picked up in Venice. I picked it up on 3rd Street Promenade, like as if I'm a tourist. I've lived here for 20 years. I picked it up on 3rd Street Promenade. I actually bought it as a gift. I bought 2 of them, different signs. I gave one as a gift, and then this one just ended up being sort of like, you know what, I like that. I'm going to keep that one. And I live in Westwood, which is not that far. So do you live in Westwood? Sorry, do you live in Venice? No, you live in like Santa Barbara?
No, you're getting close. Cambria, Central Coast. Oh, you're talking.
You do? Okay. Yeah. So you nailed me. I just wanted to let you know while you're, in the shower, be like, yep, I got him. I nailed him. I feel like I'm getting my voice from your microphone.
Okay. An echo? How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
I'm still hearing a little bit. And it just started. I didn't hear it before.
Okay.
Anyway. You're moving, or you just moved recently, Tori was telling me? Or you're going to be moving?
Oh, no. Not right now. I had lived in Palm Springs for a while. That's where we first moved to. I met with Tori for a little bit. We were talking a little bit about that because I moved like 10 years ago from New York City, where I was working. And that was sort of the genesis of everything, which was I basically gave up 97% of all my work because it was all studio work and started over from scratch. And I mentioned to her that I wanted to move to an area where there wasn't a built-in music industry. I could have moved to LA and been working within a week because I had all the connections I would need to make. Because I wanted to, because if I moved to LA, I would have traded a subway ride for being in a car on a highway. And I wanted to be able to I didn't want to live in a big city at that point. I think I just kind of reached a place. It's like, I want to be able, if I want to live in Hawaii, I'll just move to Hawaii and do my class from Hawaii. And if I want to live in the central coast of California, I could live there and do that, as long as I have an internet connection. And so that was really the thing. So I put myself specifically in an environment where I couldn't be self-supported by the local music industry. And that would it would force me to create this entity, some other way of doing what I wanted to do, because if you have an easy out,
you'll take it.
You'll take it, you'll say, you know what, this is hard.
So what would you say? I mean, I feel like a lot of us in this room right now have a similar wavelength that we're probably on. We're either curious about, how music is happening and maybe being a part of it, or kind of just watching it and understanding it. But many people on this are probably creating music, trying to do something, just from a general sort of professional standpoint. You describe something that's kind of a decision that you make 10 years ago to say, I don't want to do X anymore. I want to do Y. And I want to live a certain way. And it wasn't, it was happening. That kind of thing you are describing was happening 10 years ago.
Right.
But, it's sort of in a way like live streaming was happening 6 months ago. It's happening.
Yeah.
But most people that you tell, I'm going to start a live stream and live from that. It's like, what are you talking about, bro? Like,
right.
You work in studios all day. They pay you well. What are you doing?
Right.
So the question I would have for you is, given that, literally week to week, things are changing right now in so many ways. But for someone that's trying to create something, is the first step, like you said, to have that vision and say, I want to live this particular way and kind of describe it that way? Is it to decide to create, when you did that first 8-week module, that could be described as sort of a minimum viable product. You didn't know if that would work. You did it, you kicked it out. It took a certain amount of time to put it out there, and it could have failed. And you would have been like, oh, that failed. Okay, I'll try something else.
Yeah.
Is it important to just get something out there and see what works and then learn? Is it important to have the vision? What do you got to do first?
You have to be completely okay with failure.
Yeah.
You have to completely accept that something that you put out there will not be accepted. Because you have to be able to put something out and see how people respond to it, and then develop it. Notice what people react to. And then you probably do that naturally, right? Because people are they're going to comment on certain things you say. They're going to comment on certain pathways that you take with it. And that's going to help to direct. Your audience is helping to direct you with what they want to see, right? With what they're interested in. Right. And as long as you're open to that you're not forcing something down people's throats, that you listen and pay attention to your audience, it starts to take on its own momentum.
For sure.
And you have to focus on, to me, I think you have to find a niche, and they get smaller and smaller. And what I mean by that is, for me, I was focusing on mixing. I created a website that was specific just to mixing. And So I started creating courses on that. And then my YouTube channel, I released a full beginning to end course for free. People watch that course, people discover that course, and they find that course, they take it, right? So if you went to my YouTube channels, if you went to mixingwithmike.com, click on the little YouTube icon, it'll take you to the YouTube channel. You go there, fundamentals of mixing. You could take an absolutely free course. It's like 60 lessons, right? All right after it ends up being like 30 hours worth of content about mixing, right? A full beginning to end course. People take that and it's like you've completely changed how I think about my music. You've just like made all the work that I do so much better, right? Completely for free. That person is a super fan. That person comes to my website and they say, if you taught that for free, what else do you have on your website? And then they look and they see something like the boot camp and they say, you know what I need? I need a regular practice. I need somebody that's going to feed me new things, new exercises, new things to work on every week. So I get into this rhythm of working, this flow of working, where every week I'm learning something new. I'm getting some new exercise, some new thing to practice, something that makes me better at what I do. And it becomes like a training program. But that type of thing, and you're doing it now because you're creating this thing for free. You're not charging people for it, right?
Right.
You have to establish, like anybody, a footprint. You have to have draw people in, give them something that they're interested in, talk about things that they want to talk about, right? Present information they want to see. And that carries, it kind of has its own momentum. And you just have to be sensitive to following where that takes you, right? And how that moves. So I wish I could say that everything I put out was a big success, or that, there weren't times when I went to do my live class and there was nobody there and I still did the whole class professionally, like with nobody there, but it never dissuaded me. Like, it's like, okay, keep moving forward. What do I need to change? How do I need to present this in a different way to make it more interesting? And I found the best thing was making a personal connection with people. I teach the live class just like you. You pick up all the comments, right? You acknowledge people as they're coming in, as they're asking questions, and you follow that. And sometimes it takes what you plan to do in a completely different direction.
Right.
Go that
That's why
way.
I don't really, the first handful of these that we did, I sort of approached it like a traditional interview. And I felt like that was sort of my job, is to kind of keep it structured. Totally, Kim. And thank you guys for popping in. By the way, to answer your question, Sinaster, you asked this like 500 times, and I apologize. We have zero social. I mean, Tori kicks some stuff out on her socials. We're, to Mike's point, I've been in the music industry for 20 years or so, and I've worked with a lot of people that have moved into something, and I always tell them, sort of similarly to what you're describing, if you want to try something, just go in and do it. And it's sort of that ready fire aim.
Yeah.
In other words, get out there, try something, and then based on the feedback, calibrate it. And if you don't take your own advice, then you probably shouldn't be giving it. And so when stuff was happening 4 or 5 months ago, and I realized that a transition not only was in effect, but needed to be in effect. A lot of people are sitting here going like, oh no, that doesn't help. That doesn't help you. That doesn't help the music space. That doesn't help the people you work with. That doesn't help the economy. That doesn't help your creativity. That doesn't help all those missed opportunities that we have if you're sitting there going, oh no, the stuff I normally do won't work. So us moving into this, I mean, Tori and I literally, you know how to do live streaming? No, neither do I. Let's do it.
Exactly.
Like, that was our motto. And from day one, like, we just are sort of doing what you're describing. And I think live streaming as a thing, as a medium, as a thing that people can do so much easier now, is a perfect way to do that, because you can just get on, but also you can't not have feedback. Like, you could put something online and not know who likes what or whatever, but it's I think there's something about live streaming itself that just works towards what you're talking about. And I think if I were to take one principle that you're talking on, it's just get out there and try things, and know that statistically speaking, a lot of what you put out will fail. But part of the question is, well, what did happen though? Did they like this but not that?
Right.
What, you know, or can I do it in a different way? Or what did I learn? Or, okay, that didn't work. Great. Let's try it this way. Maybe that will work. And that's sort of a tolerance for, oh shit, that didn't work. Great. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
It's so cheap to fail now.
It is. And it, you know, this format is raw and new. I mean, you know, it's not like live streaming hasn't been happening, you know, for a while, but I mean, as you're doing it now, it's the Wild West. You know, you really have a lot of levity and a lot of creativity that you can put into before it starts to get formulated. You know, but I think, you know, the thing that people respond to more than anything is passion for something, you know, and if you're very passionate about something, like even like, you know, one of the things they always say about the business, you need to have, you know, you need to have a directive. Like I have a thing, it's called, you know, inspiration in the recording arts, right? I want to inspire people, you know, I wanted people to have the experience of, you know, or feel excited about audio, about the music, about the things they weren't working on, you know, feeling inspired. And that draws them back, because when they go back and they start working on their own material and they're like, oh man, this song sucks, right? But, you know, but Mike's class is on Wednesday, so I'm going to go there. And that's there's this kind of this thing where people come back and it's like, I missed something. And so then they bring that to the table and they come onto the chat and they say, you know, I was trying this and it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Right. And then I talk about it, and then it becomes part of everybody's experience, because then the next 20 comments are, I had that problem too. And then right now you got a community and you got people who are connected. Right. And it's just tapping into that. I see you doing it right now. Like you, just like the fact that you keep an eye on the chat and you're kind of responding to all the people that are on, that's everything. That's everything, is making that connection, because that's why they're there. They're there to connect with you.
Even our guests, I paid Mike to say that, but it's still I appreciate it tremendously. And again, I mean, this is going to sound like I'm pandering, but like, it's super cool to have all these comments and to know that people are listening and to know that people are responding and that they're loving it, or that they're confused, or that they want to hear something. And it actually makes it great. I love, Kim, I love your comment about there's no failure, there's only feedback. Dude, Tori had mentioned that you're a little bit tight on time and it's already 11:05.
Right.
We super appreciate you being here. Guys, if you missed any of the links that we posted, you can always just hit us up on our wall or whatever, and we'll give you, you know, Mike's got a free every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Yes. Yeah.
Is a free just class to come, just basically kind of virtually.
All you do is just sign up for the newsletter and you'll get an email half hour before the class. If you miss the class, you can't make it at that time, the live stream posts right afterwards, immediately after the class, and so you can catch it at any time you want. But if you make the live class, you can ask questions in real time, just like we're doing here, you know?
Exactly. And just like our stream, if you go on to the top of our thing when we're not here, you can go watch our previous ones on YouTube, thanks to Tori. Props for Tori, by the way. Give it up for Tori.
Tori's awesome.
These things, she's awesome.
No, I just love talking with her before we connected. You know, it just like we were chatting for a while, and it's like, yeah, big props.
And so if you know, if you want to be able to see the other classes that Mike's been doing Wednesday after Wednesday after Wednesday, you can go back to the YouTube and see, kind of get a flow for those as well. So, dude, thanks so much for being on.
Pleasure.
And speaking to the inspiration component, you know, much more than, I think sometimes, again, people that are part of a craft, sometimes it leads a little more technical and sort of how to, but I can tell you're coming from the place of just like how to keep people inspired, how people learn how to do stuff. So thanks very much for the energy, and appreciate you, dude. So we'll definitely have you on again whenever it's possible.
Yep.
And thanks again, Mike. Any last words for the folks here?
Just, you know, for all the people who are, you know, creatives out there, you know, that are out there creating something, whether it's music or live streaming or whatever it is that you're doing, just always, you know, always lean into your passion and what you feel most excited about. And that's, you know, you keep pushing in that direction. Anytime you feel down about something, push it into something that you love doing, you know, push it in that direction. If you keep doing that, just be patient. It bears fruit, you know, it bears fruit. So that's my last little bit of wisdom, right?
Thank you, brother. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon. Let me know if I can, look, again, we'll talk more about some of the things that I'm involved in and if I can help with anything or connect you in any way. Thanks very much, Kim.
Hit me up. Hit me up anytime.
For sure.
Pleasure meeting with you.
All right, bud. Likewise.
Take care.
See you
All
soon.
right. Peace.
Peace. Come on, folks. Shit. That was super fun. Who wants to pop on and chat? That was really, really great. Come on, man. We love Mike. That guy's great. Wow, we have a lot of people. Tano, did you learn a little something? I was gonna ask him. Damn, I wanted to do something with him just for you. I was gonna ask him, like, can you mix as well in Logic as you can in Pro Tools? And Tano's gonna be like, of course you can, of course you can. And then he's gonna be like, whatever he was gonna say. But I missed it. Tori wants to jump. You ready, Tori? You can. Ooh! I got you, Tano. That's great. Tano's like, that's damn straight. Let me know when you're ready, Tori. I know you like to get that lighting just right. So great to have you guys on here. So again, man, that was just so much fun to hear his backstory, and that was exactly the kind of thing I was kind of like hoping for today. And hopefully, you know, some of the stuff that we talked about was stuff that's interesting to you. Let us know. Let me know, like, what else you'd like to learn about. Thank you, Maundir. Appreciate that. Come on, Tori, let's do this, man. Wow.
Oh.
Window.
Yeah, I had to get the good lighting.
You did.
Next up will be a good mic and a good camera.
We just had a good mic.
Oh, thank you guys.
One.
Thanks for joining. This stream was so much fun. Oh, I know I say that every time, but
You do, actually. And it gets more and more like emphatic. I think that started about, I don't know, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It was like, yeah, that was fun. And now it just becomes like, this is so fun.
this is fun. More exclamation points at the end.
So what was your big takeaway from today? Tori.
Say that one more time. I don't know if I cut out or you cut out.
What was your big takeaway from today? Thank you, T. We love you being here.
Oh, I always love
to pop in.
I learned, I mean, I say this every stream. I learned so much. I love the personal stories, like the fact that he was like, I'm moving to California. I'm going to go virtual before virtual was even a big thing, I'm sure.
Yep.
And just the analogy he gave to me was he was jumping in a pool without checking first if there was water.
Yep.
I was like, that's terrifying. And his little pieces about how they would do different tracks, like one for singles, one for radio, one for an album. So fascinating. I had never heard that before.
Yep.
And I just love when someone is like, follow your passion and everything else will come with it.
T, you wrote 2 raps today? What the hell? That's amazing.
Inspo hit.
Wow. Somebody's inspired. Somebody's inspired. Vargas, I'm down to bring you on. Just let me know, like, give me an idea of what you want to chitty chat about. You know, this is kind of an open forum for you guys. What did you guys learn? Or what did you sort of get from that? That it was useful or maybe different than what you thought? Yeah, what struck me the most was that in the era that he was working in the 80s and 90s mostly, like you said, there was so much sort of like specialization, like you do this or you do that or you do that, and you're really good at those things, and that's your lane, and that's sort of what we pay you to do. And I don't think there were a lot of people at that time that were doing multiple sort of roles that basically were just there to make the music sound better. I think now it's super common that you've got an artist who's also a producer and can mix their records and can do a live stream, and that can blah blah blah. You know, now that's sort of like what a lot of people do. And so I think it's almost ironic that I think what he was doing back in the day, and then that pivot he made, are like super relevant to people that are like trying to do stuff now. T, I'm so happy for you. Yeah, totally. The intention. Kim was saying, like, just having an intention, having a vision. I remember, and starting with the end in mind. Totally. I remember having a conversation with someone at the production school that I used to be at for songs and for his career. And I would say, like, you know, some people would be moving to, a lot of our students would end up moving to Los Angeles from somewhere else. And a lot of, when I would sit down with them at sort of the end of their passage, it was, you know, what does your life look like in a year? They're like, what? And I'm like, where do you want to live? You know, oh, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. If you could pick any place, where would you want to live? I don't know, maybe right here in West Hollywood, whatever. Cool. Like, so near Santa Monica Boulevard? Yeah, that'd be nice. Cool. And like, what kind of artists do you see? You know, and I would just, and it's actually not that hard. I think sometimes you need someone in your space that believes in you enough that they're like, yeah, that could work. Yeah, sure, why not? Sometimes you tell yourself and you're like, you know, how realistic is that, right?
You're really good at asking those questions too. Now, like before, I was like, okay, I'm about to go chat with Pete. We're going to get coffee. I need to make sure I have answers for all these things he's going to say.
Really? You're like, I need to like get ready.
Because definitely the first time you asked me like, oh, where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? My answer was, I don't know. And you're like, well, go figure it out. And I was like, oh, shoot, he's right. I need to go figure it out.
I mean, well, and I remember, so what was interesting about, you know, our sort of time together was that I remember, I don't know whether it was a particular conversation or a particular like phase of your career where you basically decided, you know what I love is I love live events. I don't know exactly what that means, you know, but I love live events. I could tell you, you know, I like this about it. I like that. I like something involved with the artists. I like the sort of excitement and details of putting the events together. I like being involved with the sort of chaos and organization, whatever it is you said is like, okay, just that was pretty much the Rosetta Stone for you. Like that, from that point forward, everything you kind of just like have been where you are, right?
It was very much a light bulb moment of like, oh, I can actually work and do those things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Thanks for the likes.
But I think that's, you know, I don't know, maybe it's like you need someone else in your life sometimes to help you identify those things. You need, it doesn't have to be a single person necessarily, but I think sometimes you need people. Who was saying this recently? There was someone in the last live stream or two that was saying that you need to have feedback from people around. Emma, if you're still on, Emma was saying like, look, I'm trying to put my logo together. I'm trying to put my look together. I need to give this to people, right? That not just to shoot holes in it, but like that believe in the fact that this could be something and can go, rad. Of the 5, I like this one because it's the simplest. Now go make that one famous. Like you need that info and that intel, and you need that sort of push from people that are like, you know, you see that up there? It's like, yeah, I see that. When 2 people see something, it's more real. Thanks for being a fan. Tundra. I think it's very valuable. And again, I think that's something else that's super cool about live streaming is, you know, it's kind of like if a tree falls in a forest and nobody sees it, did it actually happen? If something's in your mind or something is interesting to you and you think it might be possible, is it real? Well, if 20 people are with you in some way and they're like, yeah, dude, this is on, then it's more real. And it means that you have maybe more energy to put behind it. So yeah, I mean, I like this kind of conversations. I guess I've always been kind of good at those conversations with people. So it's been fun kind of being on that journey with you. And even this, I mean, the whole reason I think that it's been interesting for both of us is it's sort of this yin and yang thing. Like, it's a combination of something that we intrinsically like and do kind of well. You're very good at like making things happen and not be chaotic. And you're very good at like interacting with people and connecting things and making things good. Like your skill set is like, even just in the last couple months that we've been doing this together, I'm like, wow, like you're a badass. Like,
oh, thank you.
And you're also really good at communicating. You're very good at like, you know, like even just when we contacted a number of artists in the last couple of days and said like, hey, you now artists, like you're just very good at certain things that it's almost impossible for me to put into words with, but you know what I mean. And when someone sees it, they're like, oh, she's really good at that. Right. and then at the same time, right, we're getting this thing started and you're like, Pete, I know nothing about technical anything. That's not what I don't know anything about live streaming. I don't know how any of this stuff works. I'm like a little baby. I have no idea how any of this stuff works. And I'm like, great, you'll be perfect. You know, because you have
we
all
learn together.
But why else would you do this unless you were learning something you didn't already know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the whole point, is in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, which is where we are now. You've been on.
This is where we are now.
You've been on live streams helping people do like charity streams. And I think it's great that you have this good combination of like stuff that you already know and kind of crush on, and then stuff that you didn't know anything about 5 months ago. And me, same thing. Like, I can kind of do this all day long, I guess, just because it's just my nature. Mm-hmm. But live streaming, what the hell's that? How does that even work? How do I look at a screen and try and follow comments on it? I mean, you guys know. I mean, it's going to be 5 years before I'm like actually on that. But
thanks, Kiana.
But yeah. So
yeah, you went from someone who wouldn't want to FaceTime their mom to now hosting a live stream twice a week with.
And the reason I do it is I like the pain and the fear. I like going into something and going, this is fucking hard. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. There's something strange about me that I find fascinating. That's like, I like to try and go in and do something. I like to learn a new language or do something and just be completely like semi-overwhelmed by it. That's what's interesting. Like, am I going to not drown? Can I not drown in this? That's sort of stimulating. And then also what was exciting to me about it was that the music industry is someone just hit the reset button. I mean, completely. I don't even think we even realize how much the reset button's been hit. In a year, we'll realize it and we'll go, whoa, this is like, we literally hit the reset button. So this is such a fascinating time to be moving into things that you might have been thinking about doing and learning about and tracking and talking about and connecting with people. Yeah. It's sort of a flurry of stuff. It's a little bit dangerous. I'm not going to lie. Things are moving. It's not stable. But within that, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity if you can kind of pick your battles, look at something and you say, I want to learn about that. I'm going to put a little bit of time and energy into that. And you can actually make a lot more progress right now in certain parts of the industry than normal. I can get people on the phone that I normally wouldn't be able to get on the phone.
I feel the exact same way. Like, I'm connecting with people I never would have, like Arabian, NWA. Never would have dreamed of chatting with him, let alone having him on our stream.
Yep.
And now having his number in my phone as someone who's like, hey, hit me up when you need anything. Or even with...
That's you, though. That's also you. Like, no, I'm serious. Like that's also about, and Andrew, we're a live stream about live streaming, music live streaming. I think that's, you're like that. People like you very quickly, and they sort of get a really good vibe from you because that's who you are. And so when you meet 20 people, 19 of them are gonna be like, hey, we should hang out. That's just that's you, right? And so that's, I think
When
that's
you say
part
it
of
like
the
that,
talent.
it's like, I guess I shouldn't be, okay, I'm going to go back a little bit in like baby Tori's life. Did I ever tell you I was prom queen?
No, but it doesn't surprise me.
So I feel the same way with you telling me with like me being prom queen. It was like, I don't think that. I don't think I'm one to be like popular or like in that scope, but
Yeah,
things like that keep happening where it's like, oh man, maybe
believe it, it's true.
maybe so.
And this, thank you so much.
I have to show you a
Um,
picture of baby Tori
yeah,
with a crown.
Yeah, I was the
Pete was the prom goof.
Yeah, I mean, I think people can sometimes see the things that make you unique better than you can, because for you, it's just easy. So you're like, what's the big deal? Like being nice to somebody and getting to know them, you know?
Hey, Moonhawk is back.
What's up, Moon? Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Dude, like you jumped in, walked into the party and started the party, bro. Like, thank you so much. Like, you and I are it's going to be a 4-hour sit down when you come on here, because I can already tell.
We're going to need
like,
a
you and I
slot
are like,
a longer time.
You're such a cool dude, man. I can already tell. Yeah, and I have to own up to that. I think, I mean, without sounding the wrong way about it, it was a mission. Like, we're not just on here to hang out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm not a good hanger outer. I actually find it uncomfortable to be like, let's just hang. Like, even with my good friends, I'm like, what are you doing right now? Are we going to talk workouts? Are we going to talk business? Are we going to talk girls? What are we going to talk about that's going to move the needle for somebody on something, right? So
Pete
like,
doesn't know how to chill.
I mean, I do. I can bullshit with, I mean, trust me, I get a glass of wine in me and it's like, it's all over. But like, I like the idea of using this for something useful when it's not a fucking pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Now, on some weird, not sort of like soapboxy kind of way, but stuff like this is just some little miniature thing that is just doing, thank you, Mohammed. But like having spaces like this, wherever it is, YouTube, at Mike's thing, or whatever, any of the people we bring on, when Britt comes on, next week, or when Dan comes on Wednesday to talk about Side Door, which is a ticketed platform.
Schedule.
All of these people, without exception, are all creating some sort of space to provide solutions, and like we have to do that. We have to do that. So yeah, I do think it's important. Thank you, Tori.
On it.
So this is
you
what we got.
Like how I did that?
Let me tell you how important it is. You guys need to come on Wednesday to listen to Dan. Dan is an artist. He is someone who's been in the industry for a minute, and they created it's for ticketed platforms. It's probably my favorite platform. It's not really a huge one. It's not like Stage It or some of these other ones that are out there right now, but it's my favorite. And he's just a really good guy, and he gets it. He's sort of like Mike. He gets being an artist and being someone that's trying to do things, but he gets sort of like how to put the business together so that it snaps together.
Which I say that for every stream. It'll be a good one, but it will be a good one.
And then Britt's going to come on and talk about how to get your songs on TV and film. I mean, that's going to be unbelievable. Dan Morgan, yeah.
Dan. Different Dan,
No, different Dan, though. Different Dan. This is a different Dan. Dan Morgan is, if you guys, the website is Side Door Access. And they're awesome. I'm a fan of them. It's Dan and Laura who started it. If you guys have other people that you think, yeah, Dan from United is Dan Colombo. If you guys have other stuff that's going on, that's interesting to you, like kick it to us. If it's, I want to know more about, I don't know, tracking stuff online using software. I want to know more about TikTok, whatever. Like, I'm in a unique situation right now because of the fact that I'm writing for music industry newspapers, and I'm writing this guide that sort of speak to the virtual and remote resources. And you know, I can get people on the phone, and I could say, look, you know, let me talk to you a little bit, and I can write something about this and mention it, which is great for them. It's great for the industry, but it also means that if they're up to coming on here, then we get to talk with them too, which is crazy. Like the fact that we get to talk to someone like Dan, who's in the process of like ramping up this really important live stream model next Wednesday is bonzo. It's crazy. So like, if you guys have people that would be cool, sort of like to check out, let us know. You can always drop stuff in Discord. Tori keeps an eye on that stuff. I'm pretty bad with the Discord. Tori will be like, dude, you need to read this. And I'm like, oh, thanks.
Here, let me drop it.
We have, what, you want to post the Discord?
Yeah.
So folks can check it out. Totally, Kim, like, absolutely. That's going to be super fun when you're here as well. We can talk shop on songwriting. I mean, it might be interesting to have someone from, shit, I don't know, RIAA, or from, you know, different PROs. I mean, we could do all sorts of stuff. I don't want it to be too weird and heady and industry and businessy. Thanks, T. I want it to be something that's sort of in that sweet spot, sort of like with Mike, where I feel like there's a little, you know, he's got a technical background, he can speak on it, but I don't want it to be like an hour of like how to use reverb. I don't think that's what people want, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Which I feel like Mike was the perfect example today too. Like personable, great stories, great background, and mad smart.
Mad smart. And just empathetic and gets the artist side as well. Moonhawk, absolutely. Just you know, send some stuff over via email or whatever. I mean, frankly, what I try and do, right, Tori, is like, if someone's like, oh, you know, maybe we want to have so-and-so on, I try and find out what's going on with them, what kind of music they're doing, what's different about them,
Mm-hmm.
what could they speak on, what would be interesting about their story that they'd be able, right? So, yeah. Completely. Yeah, no. What I'm saying, Moonhawk and Kim and anyone, is like, we're very open-minded, right, about absolutely anyone that could be cool for you guys. And then what I try and do is a little bit of, I guess, due diligence and be like, okay, what is this good for this audience, and how might that work, right? So that we're not, I don't know, I wanted to have something unique and valuable for you guys. You know what I mean?
It's good for the community, good for the guest.
Yeah,
everyone kind of takes like, something away from it.
Yeah, totally. So, but we're all open to stuff. Yeah, you know.
Try.
Speaking of the audience, how you doing on time, Tori? Should we bring somebody on?
To run in a few minutes. My big virtual event is today that I've been working on for my full time.
Are you allowed to talk about that? Are you allowed to tell us anything about that?
I can give you
hush
a little bit, but it's not live for another hour, so I can't.
Yeah, you can't say like so and so is going to be there, or
yeah, they're all surprises. But
yeah,
everyone's jumping in the Discord. Thanks, guys. I'm getting little notifications.
Like Sphinx.
Yeah, but put together a virtual event for corporate event, which is my full-time job. And we have like 5 celebrity guests, including a host, a magician, a couple musical performances with some huge artists that I don't think we would do corporate, but because we're in this weird time frame,
Right.
they're jumping on it. So excited to see how it'll all come together. And next Wednesday, I can give you more names on it after the event has gone down.
That sounds pretty fair.
So I'm excited for it. Starts in an hour. Should be good.
Sounds like you got some stuff to do. I'm gonna let you pop off if you need to, because I know you, and I'm sure there's shit to get done, and you're like, I kind of need to roll, but
Oh, but I wanted to hop on here because it was so fun. I
it's fun.
needed to hop
Yeah,
on.
you guys
after.
better love Tori, and you do. But I'm just saying, if you don't either.
Thank you, Moonhawk. Thank you, everyone. There was so much Tory love in the chat. You
There
couldn't
was a
see
lot
me,
of
but
Tori
I
love
was
in the
just like,
chat. I don't know where all that came from. 'Cause I like
so
to be.
fun.
I like to monopolize. I like to be like, no, I love Tori. No one else loves Tori. Me. Hey, hang out for 2 minutes. I'm gonna do my pee break,
Okay,
and then I'm gonna come back, and then I'll let you go.
guys, this is when we talk about Pete. He goes for a pee break about this time every stream, pulls me on, and this is when we talk about Pete. So, guys, this stream was so much fun. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I don't know how you longer streamers. When do you go pee? Do you just leave? We have some exciting stuff coming up though. And run off. Pull up a guest too. Diapers. We'll throw that one out. Who was it? There's been a couple like fundraising streams where they're like making records. I think was it Uka Luka or Sam Elliott did like I think it was Uka Luka did a 200 song ukulele fundraising stream. And I was like, that's a long time. And then someone else did an Up All Night promo fundraising stream for Black Lives Matter. I'm like, all night, like 10 hours of content. That is impressive. Yeah, we're excited for Dash. Diapers. We'll ask Pete if he's down for that. August is our kind of like You Now showcase there. So we're bringing on a lot of you great folks that are in the chat right now. It'll be so exciting because when we decided we wanted to do this project and just get a bunch of you in hours and talk with them about goals, music, stream life, I started looking into more of these people, and man, y'all are so talented. So talented. I'm like fangirling just looking up all these people. Oh, he's back. Now we stopped talking about him.
Yeah, everybody stop talking about me.
Thanks,
by the way,
Anna,
I
for joining.
can't go back and watch this afterwards.
I will definitely lurk Mia. Fan you up.
Wow, this shit went in. This stuff went deep. Like, wow. I walk off for 2 minutes and we're like in the gutter. It's like a Comedy Central special.
We're talking about
I should pop off more often.
How people do pee breaks when they're streaming. They had a lot of good ideas.
I love it. You know, and I'll tell you right now, when Brento comes on, I'm gonna be like, bro, you were my inspiration. Because for the longest, for like 2 or 3 months, I'm like, you can't just, I have to go take a pee break. You can't do that in the middle of it's a live stream. It's like, you know, being on stage, and then you're just like, I'll be right back. And then I'm watching one of Brent's streams, and he goes, "All right, folks, I got to go take a pee. I'll be right back." And I'm like, "You can do that? He just fucking walked off." And I can't even remember if anything was happening during that. And I go, "Well, at least I'll figure out to where like something's going on while I'm going pee." We could talk more about this if you want.
drop in the Discord. They had great ideas. They said a
About
bottle
the
under the
P-Words?
table, a catheter, diapers.
Oh, that's where the diapers came from. Yeah, diapers would be good.
Yep.
Has anybody seen? This is going to be like an old reference, but there's a movie from probably like the 90s called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. No one's ever fucking seen this movie. Nobody. And there's this scene in the movie where basically, you seen that movie?
I haven't.
Moonhawk. Have you Moonwalk? Dude,
No.
I like that.
Moonwalk.
Moonwalks. So okay, if Moonhawk, do you want to come on and reenact that scene right now? Are you down to do this? It's from 1988. Dude, let's do it. And one of us will play Michael Caine, and one of us will play who's the other dude, the comedian who plays banjo. Come on, Moon. Thought you would. Come
Pick
on.
out your toilets with LEDs.
All right, we'll leave that scene for later.
Oh.
Like that's not already there, dude. Come on. I got lights. Oh, please, you're out of the shower. That's like, come on, man. That means you're fresh and clean.
Donnie reported
What were
this
we
stream.
getting reported?
It's okay.
Like, we had some interesting comments about your stream today.
It was good for the first half, and then the second half, it just
Yeah, just
the guest left. And Pete and Tori lost
whoa,
mine.
this is getting like a little.
It's all right. We'll have Moonhawk later. We'll also have Kim later. Excited to have all of you guys later.
Yeah, we got some. I feel like almost every slot for August is taken now. We might have one.
Almost. We have two the last
We
week
have two now?
of August. Yeah.
Okay, still.
Which, I mean, maybe we extend it farther. Maybe we go into September.
But then it's not in August.
We're going to do August.
This one goes up to 11.
Huh?
This one goes up to 11.
This one what?
Does anybody get that reference? Please help me out.
Are we talking like a volume dial?
There's a scene in Spinal Tap, which is another movie from like 1900.
I'm
Kim's
not
like,
good
"Yeah,
at
I got you."
movies.
She's like, that was funny.
I still got to see The Matrix and Jurassic
What
Park.
is wrong with you? You've never
Back
seen
to
The
the
Matrix?
Future.
My favorite movie?
I know.
Stonehenge. This is Spinal Tap. We should do like reenactments of Spinal Tap scenes. Like dude, this is gonna happen. Well, this one goes up to 11. But I'm not gonna do it now because someone's gonna take that scene and they're gonna be like, no, that's my scene. That's my
Thanks,
scene.
Kim. We'll see you soon.
You pop it off, Kim? Okay. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
No, don't tell him it's a good accent. He'll continue it.
Yeah, it's true. And I think I did that the first time I ever spoke to Emma. I couldn't help myself. This was on the phone, like our interview for the paper, and she goes, hi, is this Peter? And I was like, you said it without a T. And I was like, that is so. I mean, I know I sounded like that. I was probably like, that was awesome. Do that again. And I was teasing her, but I love the English accent, and I do it in the most awkward moments when the other person has an English accent. So it works. It's part of my charm. Yeah, Brits don't really get offended though. That's the thing. Yes, they do. I saw something a couple of days ago where like it was like a UK versus US thing for the I think it was I'm trying to remember who it was, but they were doing some sort of a like musical competition, and it was a UK artist and a US artist, and they were like, "Rrr, rivalry, rah." Yeah, it was Erica's thing. That's what it was. Giles, you're not British.
Which we are also having Erica on.
Tori,
In
do me a
August.
favor. go take care of your day job so you don't get fired. And then she's like,
I was having so
when
much
you're
fun.
in
I
the
forgot
exit
about
interview, they're
time.
gonna be like, why did this happen? You were always such a great. She'll be like, yeah, it was Peter.
Here,
And
let
then
me
I'm gonna
drop.
get roped into it.
I'll say goodbye and then I'll drop the Discord one more time for people.
All right.
But it was so much fun.
Go
Great
crush
stream.
it, and we're gonna hear about all of your secret artists on Wednesday.
Sounds good.
All right, Tori.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, guys. Thanks, chat. See you next time.
See you next time. All right, guys. So what are we doing? It was not a good accent. You're full of shit, man. Icy. Don't lie. I could do it. Sometimes I got it, but that was not a good one. It was all right. I actually do like. Do you know how this started? And by the way, I'll just do monologue until noon unless someone wants to pop on, which I think would be more interesting if somebody pops on. But this literally started the way I'm definitely going to do this with the scenes now. I'm going to bring people on, and we're going to do scenes of Spinal Tap, and we're going to have some sort of thing that we do. It's going to happen because that's the same thing that happened 5 months ago when I was talking to Emma and Sherry on the phone, and I'm like, you know what? This is fun. We should do a live stream where you guys come on and talk about live streaming. And both of them, to their credit, were like, sounds good. And I'm not even sure if they realized that I was going to actually do it. But then like a week later, I'm like, hey, so are you available like a week from Wednesday? and that actually happened. So we're going to do this. We're going to do some mad acting skills. Who's on today? Emma's probably chuckling. She's like, yeah, you did do that at our first call. Emma, am I lying? Did I do that? The very first thing that I said to you ever was, you said it without a T. Like, that's how awkward I am. I love me. Tano, T's here. Donnie's here just trying to keep me honest. He's like, dude, don't drop the ball, man. I'm watching you. It's fun, man. It's fun having a really good group of like music people. Well, Moonhawk, I'm so glad you're freshly showered, bro. I'm really, it's, you know, it's great. Here's my last little idea, and you know, if you guys are into this, you can let me know. If not, totally fine. I literally thought about this while I was peeing. Yeah, man. To make me an intro for my YouTube channel. Do you mean like write something like a bio? Is that what you mean, T? What do you mean? Make an intro. A logo. Oh, you mean a logo? I think he's trying to say a clip. T, if you explain exactly what it is you're looking for, we'll see what we need to do to get you what you're trying to do. Whether I do it, somebody on here does it, we'll find somebody to do it. What exactly do you want? Yeah, for sure. You're trying to get a logo done? Is that what you're trying to do? Like something that represents who you are visually? Yeah, of course. It's probably easier than trying to have a back and forth conversation with a text. What's up, T?
Nothing. I just went live with Tom Sicko.
Nice. How was it?
It was good. I just did my 2 new raps with him.
Are you going to do them for us?
If we got a lot of time left.
We got 13 minutes. How long your rhymes?
It's not that long.
I'm just clowning on you. Why don't you throw one out?
Huh?
By the way, so let me just make sure that we know what you're trying to do, and then I got a good vibe in the room. People are here to help. Are you trying to get a logo? Like you're trying to get a design that you can put on your YouTube channel on the front?
Yeah, it's just like You could put T Fresh or T Fresh Montgomery when they first come on, like my YouTube, stuff like that.
So do you mean like when someone hits play, or if it's a thumbnail, you want something to show up on the screen at the beginning of the video? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, add music to it.
Oh, so it's like a what do you call those? Like maybe it runs about 5 seconds and it kind of goes da da da, and it's like your sort of intro.
Yeah,
That's what you want done? Okay.
yeah, because I got 52 subscribers right now, and I'm
Well,
trying to
why
make
don't
it.
you can you type your YouTube URL for us right now?
It's the same
And
name as my picture. T Fresh Montgomery.
can you type the full logo on there, or logo? Can you type your
Okay.
full URL, and then everybody, let's pop on T's YouTube right now, like right now.
YouTube dot T Fresh. YouTube dot T Fresh. Okay, I got it.
Your channel name is T dash. Yeah. Okay. So you probably forgot to do a forward slash, right?
Oh,
Which is
yeah.
fine. I'm just mentioning that, so because that link won't necessarily work as it is, but super easy. YouTube.com/T dash Montgomery. Fresh Montgomery.
Yeah.
So we can pop on and start checking out your music. What I would recommend if you're looking at doing something like that is try and find something that's an example of what you like. Like, in other words, if in your mind you think it'd be cool to have that logo in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's because you've seen that before and liked it, right?
Mhm.
So find one that you like. That way, when someone's trying to do it for you, they don't come up with something that's totally different than what you want.
But what if you have to pay for it? Do you have to have a credit card or something?
Possibly. I mean, we might even be able to get something for you without having to pay for it. But first things first, you got to know what you're asking for, right? Because otherwise it might be semi-useless. If someone's like, yeah, I can do a logo for you, and then they give it to you and you're like, well, it's not exactly what I had in mind, right? So it's almost like, in a way, it's kind of like what Mike was talking about. You have to have a vision for something in order to acquire it. So I think if you have an example, hey, I like this logo. I like that it's got high energy. I like that red. I like whatever. You see what I'm saying? Find something that you like. Find a couple things that you like. And I have a feeling we'd be able to find some people among this community that could get you something either very, very, very reasonably priced, if not free. You know, because I think people on here are all kind of about helping each other out. So I'm going to leave one last little idea for you guys, because we got about 9 minutes left, and then I want to let you you want to spit some bars in a second?
Yeah.
All right, so let me mention something that I want you guys to sort of like semi-respond to, think about. We can explore a little further as things move forward. But about 10 years ago now, I was in a group that I was at a party once and was talking to some friends that I already knew at that party and some people that I didn't know. And an idea came up like, hey, we should everyone had like a little project they were working on at the time, like a little business. And there was good vibes among these people, and everybody was sort of like smart and helpful and kind of got what everybody else was working on. And we decided to just start meeting once a week and helping each other out. And we were all in different spaces. Like, some of us were business consultants, some of us were music producers, some of us were fashion designers, people that made shirts for like big labels, but wanted to get into their own independent thing. Some of us were dog trainers that had like one of the best dog training facilities in LA. Okay. And we were all like just good people that knew how to be able to listen to what someone else is working on and go, yeah, but did you think about this? Or what if I put you in touch with so-and-so? Or what if you did it this way so that it was faster? So I like the idea of us doing something like that, where, you know, maybe each of us can put out, not every single person if you're not clear what you want to do yet, but if you want to put something out there and be like, yo, hey, what's up, Erica? Thank you so much for bringing your friends on. Appreciate you. Thank you. We were just talking about you with the USA versus UK thing and my bad accent. We're looking forward to having you on shortly. You see how I did that? You see how I did that? Are you a cheeky monkey? Yeah, it's really bad. I think it would be cool for people. It's almost like the We Create Now thing, but less of a daily, like, let's write a song every day to a picture, which is fucking awesome. I love that you guys are doing that. It's so perfect. I can't even put it into words. But if you guys have something in the musical space that you're trying to figure out or do or accomplish or realize, I'd like to get my record out in the next 30 days. I'd like to get a publishing deal. I'd like to write a book. I'd like to get my website up. I'd like to, if you guys are willing to commit to something that you're going to go on record in our group and say, look, this is something I've been thinking about for a minute or whatever. And I just, you know, within the next 30 days, in the next 60 days, by the end of the year, you know, it could even be something like Mike's thing. Like, I'd like to just be outside of the city I'm in and I want to be somewhere else so I can work on music stuff. Thanks so much, Erica. Appreciate you. We'll see you soon. Thank you for popping in. Yeah, Michael was great, right? So I think this would be a cool space to do that, and I think that the kind of energy that's swimming around in this group right now is a good one. She's a good example. Like, okay, if you need a logo done, someone in this group can do it, or knows someone who can do it, and can help maybe chime in about how to best do it. And let's try and have these little mini projects that we can help each other. Thank you, Mia. That we can help each other with, right? And kind of do that little loving sort of like nudge, like, yo, you said it was going to be done today. What happened? You know, kind of a no excuses vibe to it, because I think that's what you need from your friends that believe in you. Normally I'd say yes, my bro, but we got 5 minutes left, and I want. I've been gabbing. Next time I'll bring you on, I promise. I just want to give Tia a chance to do a little performance. So think about that. If you guys have stuff that you're working on and you're willing to kind of put it out there, and we're going to help you think about it. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for being a big part of the stream today, man. It was great to have you in, as always. I'm gonna shut up now. Let's hear some music. Go.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Can you turn the music up at all? Or put the
Running every day, thinking about that lotto. Everyone knows that I got that follow. Seeing people popping all those bottles, drinking on Moscato. I won the lotto. I got ice on my wrist and gold on my chain. I'm over here using my brain, doing all this work. Got people going insane. That's the game, yeah, that's the game. That's the name. That's one of the raps I wrote. Now here's
can I just say something? Dan, thank you so much. You're
sure.
insane. Dan, thank you. What I'm about to say is going to sound like an exaggeration to you. It's like when I compliment Tori and she's like, well, everybody tells me that, but I don't understand and I don't necessarily believe it. What you just did was 1,000% improvement. It was a 10x improvement from everything that I've heard. And that was just in the last 6 weeks, maybe. Do you get what I'm telling you right now?
Yeah, like successful.
That's exactly what success looks like. Is you working and working and working and working and working, and then one day your head pops up and you go, whoa, huh? It's happening, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's got a sound and a flow that none of the other stuff you've done. The other stuff you've done on our stream, I haven't heard all your stuff. You've been on what, twice, and rapped a little bit, like night and day. Night and day. Props. Let me hear the other one. And
Okay.
and then I'm gonna have to roll. But I'm so proud and I'm so happy that you're doing this. And 2 in 1 day is crazy. Keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. We'll have you on more.
Okay.
Super excited for you.
Thanks. Okay. I'm getting just a little bit of attitude, so running every day, thinking about. Oh, hold on, start over. That was the last one. Let me start over. Go change and go watch this. Every day I pull out them choppers. I'm a shell shocker. I go hard. I'm a rookie and I'm gonna be an all-star. I know what I do is perfect, but you suckers out here is worthless. Next time I'm gonna be your service, and you're gonna be hurtless. When I grab the mic, I will be all night. You catch a flight. That's something I like. That's all I got.
Okay, can I give you one thing to just experiment with before we pop off?
Sure.
All right. Imagine that. Do that one again for me. But imagine that the mic is like 4 feet away.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So when you say it, I want you to say it like, if I do, it's going to be really loud in the mic, but like project it to where, if I was trying to talk to someone outside on the other side of the kitchen, this is how I would talk. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So on that one in particular, just say it as if you were trying to say it. What are you looking at right now in your room? What's in front of you?
The wall.
Okay, but okay, and how far is the wall from you?
Like right there.
I mean, how many, 2, 3 feet?
Yeah.
All right, pretend that you want the person on the other side of the wall to hear what you're saying clearly.
Okay.
Okay, and now do that one again.
All right.
Don't think about us being here and the screen and the microphone and all that shit. Pretend that someone's on the other side of the wall and they're like trying to hear what you're singing.
Okay. Go change and go watch it.
They can't hear that. They can't hear that. They can't hear that. They can't hear you, man.
Okay, I'll start over. Go change and go watch this. Every day I pull out them choppers. I'm a shell shocker. I go hard. I'm a rookie and I'm gonna be an all-star. I know what I do is perfect, but you suckers out here is worthless. Next time I'm gonna be your service, and you're going to be hurtless. When I grab the mic, I will be all night. You catch a flight. That's something I like.
Yeah! Now, the people that are on this stream, because you'll think I'm just telling you this. You tell me, was that like, you tell me, better, stronger, clearer? What you guys think? That was fire. So much right? So look, and just so you understand where I'm coming from, and that I have some sense of, clearer. When I was doing vocal lessons, I took vocal lessons for a while with someone, singing lessons, and there's a lot of things you got to work on to learn how to do. Thanks, Germa, to do this correctly. There's ways to use your diaphragm, all this kind of stuff that you could do. So you talk like this, right? Or you can use your chest, you can use your head voice, but you got to get used to being loud. The hardest thing for me when I was working on my voice was being loud. Right? You got to get used. If you're going to be a rapper, that doesn't mean you always have to rap super loud. I mean, some guys, not every rapper, thank you, Germa, rap super loud, full voice, all loud every time. But you watched all of Mike's live stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he talks about like how that music lands has to be coherent with the message. Your message was aggressive. You told me it was aggressive before you started. It's an aggressive message, which is cool. Your voice has to be aggressive if it's an aggressive message, unless you could flip it and sort of be like that sort of. You could also do an inverse of what people expect, but you have to have an energy to the voice. You can't be sort of like, so how you communicate your voice is a really important thing. And so what I would like for you to practice, simply because it's different from anything else that you've been doing that I've heard you do, is when you practice your raps, I want you to practice like the person on the other side of the wall needs to hear you. Really hear every word, not hear that you're singing or rapping, but like, oh, okay, I can hear her now. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are you going to do it?
Yes.
Try it, because like that was a much, much better performance. And all you had to do was just think about projecting through the wall. And if you do that every day, like you've been doing with your writing, I'm telling you, you'll be on stage soon.
Okay.
You want to be on stage? You want to be on stage performing this stuff? Cool. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you guys for being on. Yeah, it totally depends on the song and the attitude that you want. Depends on the message. Kiana, thank you for fanning T. Love you guys. Yeah, try standing up as well. I was actually going to talk about that. When you're sitting down, it's much harder to project. Your body was not meant to project sitting down, but it's meant to project standing up. But for the moment, just try and project more through the wall. You're always welcome to pop in. Thank you guys for being here. This was super fun. We're here to kind of help each other out, figure stuff out. Appreciate all the positive energy. Thank you guys for being a part of this. We'll see you on, what is today? God, this week has been so crazy. It's already Friday. We'll see you Wednesday. See you Wednesday at 10 a.m. PST. We'll see you Friday, 10 a.m. PST. And if you guys have stuff that we can touch upon, help you guys figure out, be a part of, absolutely let us know. Thank you guys for everything. Dan, thank you so much for all your help every day, all day. Thank you for connecting us with folks that are going to be on the stream now. Emma, love you. Thank you for being the impetus for this, and probably one of the main reasons that we're existing and doing this at all. Erica, thank you. Kim, great having you on today. Great questions, great energy. Moonhawk, can't wait to hang with you, man. T, good having you here. Donnie, you're a crazy motherfucker, man. Love you, dude. I love your energy, man. You're willing to go there and you're willing to make stuff happen. And most people are not. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. So appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys for popping in. Nina, Tiana, Angel Baby, Miriam, thank you, everybody. T, peace out. And thank you guys again. Lauren, thank you for popping in. Oak, thank you for popping in. Patricia, if you guys have anything else, we'll see you on Wednesday and Fry. Donnie's like, I'm dead, man. No, you're alive. See you guys. Love you.